les amoureux du monde, des voitures qui font du bruit, des moteurs qui défient le temps, une seule plateforme, RMC BFM Play. Une seule chaîne, RMC Découverte, avec chaque jour un programme qui relève les défis les plus dingues. Sur tous les écrans, une application et sur toutes les box RMC BFM Play.
En général de couleur orange, vous les croisez régulièrement, mais saviez-vous que 2 véhicules d'intervention sont heurtés par semaine sur le réseau autoroutier français? Connaissez-vous le corridor de sécurité? Eh bien, à l'approche d'un véhicule arrêté, intervention ou panne, je ralentis, je me déporte sur la voie gauche afin de laisser une voie de libre entre le véhicule arrêté et celui qui circule. La Fondation Vinci Autoroute vous rappelle que les patrouilleurs interviennent en premier lieu pour votre sécurité, à vous de garantir la leur.
Vous êtes passionné de sport mécanique? Pour 68 € par an de abonnement en WSE, profitez d'exclusivité tout au long de l'année. Ouverture militaire 24 heures du Mans 2024 en avant-première. Jusqu'à moins 40% de réduction sur les billets des épreuves du circuit et réduction pour boutique officielle qui tient votre corps. Pour rejoindre la grande communauté des membres, rendez-vous directement dans le réceptif du club situé à Châtel, tribune 17 ou directement sur le point. Mad about motorsport, join the ACO and enjoy exclusive member benefits all year round. The 68 euros membership fee includes pre-sale ticketing for 24 hours of freedom, up to 40% off tickets and merchandise, and much more besides. Join, visit our club hospitality areas at La Chapelle and Grandstand 17, or sign up online at le.com.
La passion s'exprime aussi dans les boutiques officielles. Retrouvez la collection hommage au centenaire de la course avec une large gamme de produits pour tous. Textiles, livres, jouets, bagageries, accessoires et de nombreuses nouveautés à découvrir sans tarder. Rendez-vous dans les boutiques officielles du circuit, mais aussi tout au long de l'année sur boutique.lemont.org.
To have this group here is just unbelievable. We have all of the challenge guys, we have the US guys coming here, but also we have the big Emozione Ferrari, the true hypercar and the GT drivers. It's a very special feeling, really, to be here. This is a very true special event for me as well, because you know, my biggest dream that I'm going to do one time is to do the Le Mans 24-hour racing in a GT car. When I'm here, I take the time to really enjoy everything. And on Saturday, the first outlap, when I'm going to see 350,000 spectators, it's unbelievable.
See you on track.
It's incredibly special. I can't believe that we're having the chance to do this. It's an out-and-out privilege. It was great to watch last night, and lovely to see the cars going around, you know, with the lights on and darkness falling. It was very, very, well, emotional.
Very nice. Also to be back here in Le Mans, it's amazing.
Yeah, definitely a good school. I mean, my career with Ferrari started here, so for sure something that I have very close to my heart, and it's always nice coming back here. For me, it was nice to show my potential in a class where all the cars are the same, and that's most of the time also where you can make a big difference, you know. So for me, starting in Ferrari Challenge and then making it to the LMS with the GTE cars and WEC and now the hypercars. Everything happened really quickly, but I think I've developed very, very fast over the past 4 years.
Il est pas couvert par une caméra. Donc 127 caméras au total, 72 on-board caméras. Alors les autres, il y a uniquement les caméras, les éléments des bambous, caméras fiscales.
Avec l'odeur.
Pour donner au monde entier les images et bien sûr à vous aussi sur les scènes. Ça me fait super plaisir de les saluer avec ce témoignage sincèrement.
Oh, it's wonderful.
I'm very careful with the word lady in that regard. But,
yeah, so you should be.
Indeed.
Unlike me. Right, that is just a snapshot view of what it's like here at Le Mans. And for all of our drivers, of course, it is an absolute privilege to be here. And you heard Paul Hogarth saying that just a few moments ago. He is one of the 70 Ferrari Challenge drivers that we will see on track in just moments from now.
Last year I came here as a visitor, just with Ferrari. And this time as a driver, it's just unbelievable. A very nice opportunity from Ferrari to participate. You can see all the areas here. You can visit the team, the drivers, the cars. It's unbelievable. GT cars in general are very, very special. It's a complete different story to the challenge car because we want to go on GT3 racing, so it's just also like a small appetizer to go on GT racing.
Actually, we are a good crew inside the Ferrari Challenge. We have some people in our age, so we are something like a little family. Now we know each other 2-3 years, and we see us once a month. Ferrari surprised us with a very, very nice membership, the Hyper Club. You can feel everything what like the engineers and the people inside Ferrari are feeling, the race drivers. So being so close to the whole thing, it's incredible.
I'm a member from a Hyper Club. 100 persons worldwide have the membership, and like it's amazing.
We are sleeping in the, let's say it, in the circuit, and the way to the paddock and everything is very close. The XX program is another series with Ferrari. The XX cars are so powerful and incredible from the sound, and the challenge cars are more, motorsport, and but it's both of them is so much fun.
So just another example of how some of our drivers are feeling. I'm in Arifpur. Hanno Laskovsky and then Nick Haller as well, all just giving us their views of what it's like to be part of this extraordinary experience with the Ferrari Challenge here at Le Mans. And as you can see, spectators already making their way into the circuit. It's very, very busy already, and there, the assembly area with some 70 Ferrari Challenge 488 Evo cars ready to make their way out onto the track for their 35-minute race around this truly legendary circuit of some 13.626 kilometers. They're all being held, ready to be released out onto the track. And then it is going to be a truly extraordinary and exciting race, that's for sure. And there you can see just how they are grouped into almost two parts of the grid, because we do have some 70 cars. Good morning to you. Hope you'll enjoy the race, which is about to get underway. And supporters then just relishing and really absorbing everything that there is here. I know you and I, Nico, were here late into the night last night, and although there was little on-track activity last night that we, of course, those things that we enjoyed earlier on in the week, you can't help but be just absolutely amazed at the spectacle and the flavour of this event. It's got to be on your bucket list if you've got any form of petrol running through your veins, because to be here and to be part of it is truly something very, very memorable indeed. So we are not far away from the race getting underway here at Le Mans Ferrari Challenge.
Yes, indeed. And it is not only a 24-hour race, it is an entire 24-hour week. That brings the people here. They've been camping, they've been enjoying their time, they've been enjoying the qualifyings, the free practices, the show. We've already gone through the drivers' parade yesterday, and now they anticipate the first race of this two-day climax of the week. And you can see the Ferrari Challenge cars are the first to file out onto the hallowed tarmac of the 24-hour circuit here in Le Mans. As you know, it is not a permanent circuit, it is part. The Bugatti circuit, which is the permanent Le Mans circuit, forms part of the venue that we are taking part, and there you can see the drivers coming out onto the start-finish line. And here is our grid.
Thomas Neuberg going from pole position for Trofeo Pirelli. Alicia O'Donoghue is alongside. And then we find Thomas Fleming and Ben Svalent, both of whom had a very good qualifying. They go from the second row of the grid. They are both Trofeo Pirelli drivers. Szymon Ladniak goes from P5, and Matt Kujewski, one of our North American drivers, goes from P6. Yuda Uchida had a good quali. He goes from P7. David Gostner, another Trofeo Pirelli AM driver, from P8. Andrew Morrow and Franz Hengsler share the fifth row of the grid. It's P9 and P10 for those drivers, with Nobuhiro Imada and Lucky Kira. They go from P11 and P12. Hanno Laskovsky and Mohammed Hamdi, they are P13 and P14 on our Le Mans grid, with Faisal Al-Faisal and Hans Sekins going from P15 and P16. Two HRO and drivers together. Niccolo Rossi and Max Mugelli. Keep an eye on Max Mugelli. He's got some overtaking to do there, P17 and 18. Custodio Toledo and Jason McCarthy, P19 and P20. It's Carl Cavis and James Owen that occupy the 11th row of the grid, P21 and P22. Then it's Tony Davis and Andreas Berg Sorensen, North American and European driver on that row, the 12th row of the grid, ahead of Otto Blank and Kim Eriksson. Then we find Armin Arifport and Danilo Dal Favero, who was having a conversation with us. We made our way into our studio here. And then Nick Haller and the best of the Copa Shell drivers, Manuela Gostner. Well done, Manu. She puts in pole position within classes P30 on this huge grid, which also contains Axel Sadigan and Peter Christensen, P31 and P32. Christian Herdvieper and John Dillon are P33 and 34. And then to the 18th row of our Le Mans grid, where we find von Skeltermar and Thomas Gosner. They are P35 and P36. Motohiko Isozaki, the best of the Kobe Shalam drivers. He goes from P37, and Corinna Gosner is alongside with Martinez Richter and Eric Chung, P39 and P40. Joachim Olander and Cyril Joxy, they go from P41 and P42 to the 22nd row of our grid, and there's lots more to come. Alexander Nussbaumer and Kirk Beervold with Henrik Kamstrup and Brad Valver, P45 and P46. Stefano Marazzi and Eric Marston, they are on the 24th row of this packed Ferrari Challenge grid, with Roland Hurtner and Christian Kinch going from P49 and 50. Paul Simerson and Stuart Marston, two brilliant UK drivers, P51 and 52, with Paul Hogarth and Mutlu Tarsev, P53 and P54. We're not done yet, because here comes Ray Acosta and Paolo Scudieri, representing North America and Europe, ahead of Jan Bernier and Tommy Lindroth. They are P57 and P58. To the next row, we find Lance Corley and Dan Cornish. They're two brilliant drivers from North America, ahead of Ingvar Madsen and Josef Schumacher, a Coppershell and Coppershell-Am driver. They're on the 31st row of the grid, with Jonathan Satchel and the entertainer Julian Dye alongside him. 63 and 64, Lisa Clark, Pino Frascaro, P65 and P66. Louis Perescoya and Roy Carroll then are on the 34th row of the grid, as we go to the 35th row, where we find Bruce Cleveland and I pause, exit stage left for a breath, Nico.
69 cars as they are listed on our timing screen, on your screen, and there is a shot of the straight, and you can see a few raindrops on the lens of our heli camera, and indeed weather is a bit of a topic. It always rains in Le Mans is a famous saying, and indeed rain has been sparse over the last few days. There was a little bit overnight, and there is some forecast in the 30-40% chance that we will see more precipitation during our race. So if 69 cars are not enough drama for you, there is even the potential for some weather. And obviously on a 13-kilometer track, weather hitting you at the very wrong moment on slicks can really, really upset what you're trying to do.
Yes, Horlicks is an expression that springs to mind. It's just what the drivers don't need, isn't it? And of course, with such a long track, Nico, some 13 kilometers, as you say, 13.626, if you'd like me to be completely accurate, the weather conditions at one part of the track can be completely different to the weather conditions at another part of the track.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not quite the Nürburgring, but it's almost the same extent of real estate that this Circuit de la Sarthe covers. And indeed, with a 35-minute race and a lap taking, well, pretty much near half of that. No, not quite, but it feels like it sometimes. If you're on the wrong set of rubber, this lap can feel extremely long, and you have to be very, very careful. And talking about very, very careful, that first lap that we're going to see in but a few minutes, the first few chicanes are certainly pinch points when you have 68 cars around you trying to find track space. Even at the best conditions is difficult. Add a little bit of moisture, a little bit of moisture, especially on the runoff areas, the painted curbs, and ooh, you gotta be careful.
Yes, all of a sudden those funnels become really, really intense, don't they? So we pick up the back end of the grid then as the cars are on their formation lap. Then it's always a rolling start in the Ferrari Challenge before the safety car peels off into the pit lane, and the cars will be released for their 35-minute race. We are live from Le Mans with Ferrari Challenge. The mix of European, North American, Japanese, and also the series from the UK. All our geographic regions that the Ferrari Challenge covers with this fantastic one-make series. They're all here. All 69 of them, as Nico has said. And just as Nico was saying that, he's already got his meteorological hat on, and he's taken a look at the weather radar so that he can accurately predict over the next 35 minutes what conditions are going to be. This will, of course, all be fed into our computer modeling so that we can bring you absolutely pinpoint accurate weather conditions. It's just a pity that the drivers don't have access to the live broadcast in their headphones because, of course, they have someone far more important to listen to, and that is their race engineer, always linked up, of course, by radio, as we can see the safety car, the Richard Mille safety car, and Manuela Gosner then weaving from side to side behind that Richard Mille safety car. And there you can see the Axel Sardigan car. Of course, the start split into two effectively for such a long track and with so many cars as well. What did your weather radar tell us, Mr. Spalek, please?
It is unsure. I would say that there is a chance that we're going to stay dry.
Okay.
But there is always a chance that that's not going to be true, because everything can happen, and generally does in the Ferrari Challenge. And at Le Mans, more than anywhere else, probably.
So the car's making their way through the right-hander right now. As you can see, of course, the formation lap takes a long, long time here. And if anything, I think it just builds the sense of anticipation and excitement for the drivers who, normally have maybe 3-4 kilometers, don't they, on a formation lap, and they really psych themselves up. When you've got such a long preparation lap, all sorts of things presumably are going through your mind as to how the race is going to pan out for you, how it is going to play out for you. Of course, for our European drivers, the very important points up for grabs. This is part of the European Championship. And therefore, what category you're in relative to some of those cars around you can also be a factor and play a very, very important part, Nico, in terms of strategic planning for your race.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, as we saw, 69 cars. Of course, for the drivers, it is first, foremost, and almost exclusively. Hello.
There is the Alessio Dono team, and also that of Max Mugelli, Radici Automobili.
Well called.
Thank you. Struggled with that.
So obviously it is only the cars right around you which really matter, but obviously the further down you're on the grid, the more susceptible you are to anything that goes wrong ahead of you. Any carnage, any damage, any accident. You're more susceptible to being caught up in that. So
yes.
You have to look at the cars right around you, but you also try and get a peek ahead of them to see if there is a car sideways facing you, stranded on the track, which you have to avoid.
To make it easier for us, the cars are all color-coded. The Pirelli drivers have a red sun strip across the top of the windscreen. The AM drivers a white strip across the top of the windscreen. Then into the Shell drivers, and if you are a Shell driver, it's a yellow color that you have at the top of your windscreen. If you are a Shell AM driver, it is a black strip at the side of the windscreen, the top of the windscreen as opposed to the side. Now, the safety car drivers then advising the drivers that we are getting ready to go here, Nico. It's a big year in the Ferrari Challenge. It's a big year at Le Mans. And it's a huge grid of cars. Some 69 Ferrari 488 Challenge Evo cars are ready to give it 100% on the loud pedal and go racing here at Le Mans. The cars grid up side by side then in full grid formation. Safety car peels off into the pit lane. Alessio Dono, Thomas Neubauer control the pace of the rolling start as they head towards the lighting gantry. And as soon as they cross that timing line, we will be away and racing. Hold on to your hats and any other loose clothing that you might have as we go racing right now. Number of cars out of position when it came to the start. I wonder whether race control will take a look at that start and consider that to be a bit shabby, really. But here they go then, through the first sequence of turns then, and if every car makes it through there, I will be amazed. And one or two, including Hans Sickens then, having to take to the runoff area. But Thomas Neubauer already, Nico, is stretching his legs over Alessio Dono. Matt Kajewski with a very good start. He's P5 overall ahead of David Gosner and Lucky Kira. So it is Neubauer from Dono, from Ben Svalint, from Tom Fleming then. They are the top four. Then it is Matt Kajewski, David Gosner and Lucky Kira. And there we pick up on just some of the cars then as the opening lap then. And here is where we really stretch our legs, if you like, and try and make up places heading towards the first chicane along this very, very long Les Hunetières straight. And a real battle going on there, side by side. To the outside there was was Hans Sicken, and you can see Alessio Dono ahead of Bens Valent and Tom Fleming. Then they are arguing over that P2, 3 and 4, and this is all playing nicely into the hands of Thomas Neubauer, who is able just to really stretch his legs, and he has made up an advantage, Nico, of some 1.4 seconds already. This is the battle that I was talking about that is going on a little bit further down the order. And a big battle raging there, that's for sure. The best of the Shell drivers remains Manuel Agostino. The best of the Shell Am drivers, Martinus Richter, Nico, who's up to P1 in Shell Am. So the Pirelli leader is Charles Pozzi, GT Racing, Thomas Neubauer. Pirelli Am leader, Matt Kurjewski. And the Shell leader is Manuel Agostino. Shell Am, it's Martinus Richter.
Indeed, and obviously the Shell drivers are in a different start group, some 37 seconds behind our leader, as we will pick them up in a little bit. But first of all, we see our Pirelli drivers going through the second chicane here, which is always a pinch point, or actually we're already into the Village turn, and we've got double yellow at Marshall Post 11, and that, I believe, is at the first chicane, if I'm not misled. And that will indicate that there was some incident, but as you can see, the car's filing out of the turn following the long chicane, coming towards Indianapolis later on. And I mean, slipstream is absolutely key here in Le Mans. And, you know, it's always setting up a car is always a challenge between tight corners, long straights. How do you manage maximum downforce in the corners with maximum speed on the straights? I think Le Mans is one where it's quite clear cut. You have to have top speed, otherwise you have no chance.
Absolutely, yes, you need that. You're absolutely right that it is always a compromise. Bens Valent then running in P2 ahead of Alessio Dono, and Alessio Dono then in P3. Then it is Matt Kurjewski, who's looking very lively indeed, and is chasing down Alessio Dono. There's Manuel Agostino, and Axel Sardigan is right on the back of Manuel Agostino. Now this is for the lead in the Copa Shell race. Now Axel Sardigan is having something of an awesome season and richly deserved, and he is chasing Manuel Agostino really hard here. A number of the Agostino family, in fact 4 of them that are racing in the Ferrari Challenge. We have Manuela, who is leading this group, ahead of Axel Sardigan. We also have Thomas Agostino, we have Corinne Agostino and David Agostino as well. Now Christian Herdvipper, by the same token, is running P3 in this Shell group, and he's on the back of Axel Sardigan too. And not far behind them is Peter Christensen and also John Dillon. So this is a fabulous race that is going on here. Now, can Axel Sardigan use the draft from Manuel Agostino and try and put himself ahead here? Christian Herdvipper looking perhaps like he took advantage more than Axel Sardigan did. So into the curves now, and Manuel Agostino holding on to this P1 position in Shell. She had an awesome qualifying as Christian Herdvipper runs really wide. That allows Peter Christensen to get a bit closer, as you can see, and John Dillon is trying to do exactly the same. So we are watching the battle that's going on with our Copa Shell cars at the moment. Manuel Agostino from Axel Sardigan, Christian Herdvipper. Then it's Peter Christensen, John Dillon, Corinne Agostino, Joachim Olander and Fons Skeltermal. They are the top 8 in the Shell drivers currently. And here then is where Axel Sardigan trying to shortcut and really rocketing his 4-a-day challenge Evo over the curbs there as a lap is completed and put into the book. And I think Axel is going to use these turns now to get as close as he can to Manuel Agostino. So along the big straight, following Tetra Rouge, he is going to really try. So we'll pick the cars up here then. And meantime, Carl Cavers in something of a sandwich here. And we have 2 blocks of cars. And right in the middle of that is James Owen. The incident involving car number 105 is going to be investigated after the race, Nico. So that's what those waved yellows were all about in the marshalling point that you picked up earlier on. Nicola Rossi having got past Hanno Laskowski. These are the Pirelli Am drivers, with Matt Kurjewski leading by some measure over David Agostino. This, though, is our overall race leader, and leader in Trofeo Pirelli is Thomas Neubauer, who's broken away significantly from Bens Valent to the tune of some 2.3 seconds ahead of Alessio Dono, Tom Fleming, Szymon Ladniak and Max Mugelli. They are all the top 6 currently in Trofeo Pirelli. And there we can pick up on the cars making their way through that right-hander, the lead group, if you like, of cars. And the Trofeo Pirelli cars, I remind you, with the red strips across the top of the windscreen. There's the best of the Pirelli AM drivers, and that is Matt Kurjewski, who has been a supreme racer in the Ferrari Challenge North American Series. Not only that, he raced in the Winter Series in the Middle East to get some track time in right at the beginning of the year, where he was very, very quick indeed, along with Jeremy Clark, the 2 North American racers doing very well in that Winter Series. And Matt Kurjewski has continued that rich vein of form through the North American Series this year as well, which, may I remind you, our North American drivers, they're not going to have much time off, Nico, because they're racing in support of Formula One at the Canadian Grand Prix in Montreal just next weekend.
Yeah, I mean, if living the dream, going from Le Mans to Formula One, very few other drivers can say that of themselves. And our North American Ferrari Challenge drivers do achieve that feat, and it's quite something. But for the moment, they are 100% focused on the remaining 27.5 minutes on this circuit. And Manuel Agostino, our leader in the AMS, Axel starting. And and that looks like some debris.
Yes, that's debris.
And there is definitely a car on the left-hand side. There's multiple cars, as it looks like, and that looks, it could be a safety car coming up.
I think for sure
we will see some replay of that, and obviously we hope that nothing significant has happened there. And
oh my goodness, that's Carl Cavers' car. I am sure it's Carl Cavers' car. I can't quite see the number, but the livery looks like it.
Well, we could see Carl walk away from the car, and in the background, whatever other car that is, we can see the driver getting out now. The integral safety of our Ferrari 488 Challenge Evos is renowned, and therefore as we get the safety car, it's always good to see the drivers emerge, and obviously that is the most important thing. And for everybody else, that means everybody's going to be compressed under the safety car. Race is neutralized for the time being.
Which, for the likes of Benz Valent, is great news indeed, because Thomas Neubauer had built up a very nearly 4 seconds lead right at the front of the pack. But yes, I'm convinced that one of the cars involved in that is Carl Cavers. Couldn't quite pick up on the rest, but as Nico has quite rightly said, all the drivers out of the cars and they're perfectly okay. And yeah, Carl Cavers is dropping down the order, Nico, and so too is Custodio Toledo. So I think it might be Carl Cavers and Custodio Toledo that were involved in that incident. And there is the Richard Mills safety car then leading the cars around now. Let's give you an update on the top 3 in each of the categories that we can. Thomas Neubauer is leading Pirelli ahead of Benz Valent and Alessio Donna. For Pirelli AM drivers, it is Matt Kurjewski ahead of David Gosner and Lucky Kera. For the Shell drivers, it's Manuel Agostino and Axel Sardigan ahead of Christian Herdweber. Then for the AM drivers, it's Martinus Richter, Henrik Kamstrup and Roland Hurtner. Let's have a look here, Nico.
Yeah, it must be in the background from that. Oh, and there is...
So there was
I think that was maybe the tire let go, and then obviously very, very unlucky to be collected.
I think you're right.
And there you can actually see some parts of debris left and right of the track, and there you can, very left underneath the safety car board, you can see the 2 drivers discussing it. And I mean, nobody's fault really. That was just an unfortunate incident.
Certainly from what we saw there, and Nico, you were studying that with maniacal degrees, and as you say, I think that it is just it's just one of those unfortunate things, and their confirmation from race control that the drivers of car 451 and 288 are perfectly okay.
Yeah, obviously, and Le Mans is a track that has always been renowned for the high speeds, and is still very much a high-speed track. And so if something happens, like a technical defect at very high speeds, there's always a scary moment, but good that we can see all the drivers involved there walk away. And
we say all the drivers. Well, bear in mind, we've got 69 cars out there, and just 2, that's remarkable in itself, in my opinion, because my goodness me, the opening laps, Nico, and there were various theories going on. Now, I did see some as Paul Simerson has come in here. Now, whether Paul had a puncture, and they're taking a look at the underneath of his 488 Challenge Evo, and he's being released out there on track. I was just going to say that a couple of the drivers I saw with wipers going. Now, I mean, from our commentary position, and I mean, let's be honest, we're right behind the main paddock here. I can't see any evidence of rain, but as we said in the at the beginning of the program, what's happening where we are in comparison to what's happening somewhere else on the track could be different, but it was only 2 cars I saw with the wipers on, and that doesn't mean to say, I mean, as we look at the cars now, I don't think any of them. So at the moment, the very slight chance of rain that we had, I think, has stayed away for the Mo. Recovery operation then for the 2 cars involved in that incident is underway, and let's get a replay of the start now. And as the cars headed to the first sequence of turns, the Dunlops before the S's and then Tetra Rouge, as you can see, everyone desperate to try and make up places, some more keen than others right at the very start of the race. As the cars went very nearly 5 abreast. David Gosner having a supreme start, so too Matt Gajewski. As they headed up towards the Dunlop curves now, some 69 of our 488 Challenge Evo cars, and there you can see disappointment with the Radici Automobili team, because of course they were hoping Alicia O'Donnell would vault the others right at the very start of the race, but so difficult, isn't it? And that's an interesting shot then through the catch fencing to some of our Pirelli engineers, of course, all the cars on the wonderful Pirelli P0 rubber, Nico.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing that we saw during the start, which is accepted at the start, is that track limits are something that's not being administered as severely as on other parts of the track, or especially in later stages of the race. As we have a little bit of time underneath the safety car, we do have quite a few drivers who have already been warned about track limits on previous occasions, and that is significant. Because if you do that too often, and too often in that case means 4 times or more, a penalty will be incurred, and that comes in the shape of a 5-second penalty first.
Yes.
And then escalates quite significantly.
Yes, it ramps up, doesn't it, somewhat? Yes, and we have had, I mean, the problem is, and we've discussed this on many occasions, you know, track limits and how they're policed. I think it's fair to say, Nico, that within the Ferrari Challenge and under the headmaster's eye, if you like, of Claudio Garavini, who is our traveling race director, he does rule the whole track limits thing with something of a rod of iron.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, you have to ensure that racing is fair and nobody exploits it and thus gets advantage as data analysis is being conducted in any shape or form possible.
There to the very right-hand side, we're looking at the Motohiko Sasaki team, but right to the right-hand side there was the mum of Andrew Morrow, one of the competitors in this Ferrari. In this Ferrari Challenge. I have to say, the marshalling team here at Le Mans, as always, do an extraordinary job. They have a lot to do, and there is the wonderful Casa Ferrari, which, as soon as this race is over, that's where you and I are heading, to Casa Ferrari for some presentation duties that we have after the race, which will be very enjoyable. Affords you a wonderful view of the track. And hello, everyone. Hope you're having a great time in there. And we'll see you in around about half an hour's time or thereabouts.
Yeah, a little bit more maybe, but keep the cappuccino warm or the cup of tea for my esteemed British colleague alongside. Yeah, absolutely. And obviously for Ferrari as a brand, this event this year is even more of a significant one than it generally is already, by virtue of the fact that the hypercar is here for the first time in 50 years. Ferrari competing for pole position and the outright win. And
may I ask, where is the hypercar on the grid?
I think there is a row 1 that's pretty red. Comes 4 p.m. this afternoon. Yeah, absolutely. Ferrari took pole position and P2 in the hyper pole on Thursday evening. I have to be honest, I'm totally confused about the weeks and weekend structure, because everything is on a different day than it generally is. But Thursday night, Ferrari took pole and P2, and today at 4 p.m. they're going to start with a locked out first row.
I haven't been invited yet to be the voiceover of that. I'd like to say, this is hyperbole. I think I'd be the voice for that, may I say?
Yeah.
Just talk to my agent. I am available.
Phone's ringing. I think you've got another engagement coming. No, 18 minutes, 41 seconds. The last lap behind the safety car took around 5.5 minutes. So if they can finish this recovery operation...
Here it is again, Nico.
And there is...
Yeah, that tyre let go, didn't it? That tyre let go.
Yes, there you can see. I mean, there is... and there is bit of debris there, and then...
Oh, that was so... I mean, doing everything he could to avoid that, and, you know... But you're trying to control an extraordinarily fast car with only 3 wheels on my wagon. I mean, that's always difficult, and Carl Cavers was just unfortunately collected. But credit to Custodio trying to keep the car out of, harm's way. It's so difficult. One of the fastest parts of the track as well. Kessel Racing pit perch that we're looking at right now. I saw Ronnie Kessel yesterday, team principal, and there you can see the Pellin Racing team as well. Of course, all the drivers being looked after by Ferrari dealers and teams, and the helicopter picking the cars up now. And when I looked at that, Nico, so we get a replay of the start once again. And this is the start from the Cobra Shell perspective.
Yeah, and there you can see Manuel Agostner and alongside Axel Sarting, and then everybody coming in behind them. I think it was a wise idea to split the grid into 2 groups just to avoid a little bit the potential mayhem. And there we have them coming across the line once again.
John Dillon had a good start because he got something of a slingshot here, Nico. Look, he put himself right alongside Christian Herdweber, and then the rest of the cars. I have to say, and I am going to say this, credit to the drivers keeping it clean and tidy right at the start, because if ever there was an invitation for things to go wrong, it would be at the start with some huge amount of cars. I also wanted to give credit to the marshalling team and the recovery team, because it looked like we might be going racing very soon, because it looked like the clear up operation was progressing really rather nicely.
Yeah, but we're only a few turns away, and the safety car is still being indicated. Lights are still on. You can see the lights are still flashing, and I rather fear that we will have another lap behind the safety car based on where they are on the grid, and that means that we'll maybe have 10 minutes of racing at the end after that safety car comes in, as we see another car emerging from pit lane. Obviously, if you're very far down on the grid, might as well, in the slow speed of the crocodile, make use of that. And if you feel like your wheels, your tires have sustained any damage, might as well get them changed, especially when you look at high speed, what can happen at the high speeds that we're doing here.
Casa Ferrari is a wonderful Ferrari experience, and they're held at various events. I've had the privilege of hosting Casa Ferrari in Abu Dhabi, also in Pebble Beach, and here now in Le Mans as well. Absolutely brilliant. So, for my money, the cars are speeding up somewhat now behind the safety car, which is perhaps indicative that will be coming in at the conclusion of this lap. In fact, I now can't see a safety car. There you go. Safety car is releasing the cars now, Nico. And the safety car lights will go out. The notice on our timing screens will go out as well. So the cars all being invited to go by that safety car. And we will have some 13 minutes of racing still to be done. And Ben Svalint then, who you can see weaving from side to side behind the car of Thomas Neubauer, and Alessio Dono doing the same. Matt Kajewski put himself ahead of Tom Fleming. And Matt Kajewski is the leading Pirelli AM driver ahead of David Gosner. So it's going to be very exciting when we resume. It's going to be something of a Le Mans dash for cash, Nico, because I'm predicting some 13 minutes on the clock, perhaps even less than that.
Given that we're just on the beginning of the long straight, I rather think that we're more into the 10-11 minutes. Double yellow has been removed at marshal posts 22 and 23. That is the accident side, as we see Thomas Neubauer go through the first of the chicanes. And that means we still got a long part of this lap to go, but already they're building speed, they're building temperature, and that means this lap is not going to take the 5.5 minutes that the previous one did, and that is good. Now, the question is, how is the grid of cars going to reshape and reform come the end of the lap? That certainly has the potential, with no safety car, to be really drawn out for the restart. So it is an extra challenge for everybody coming in behind to keep in contact and to keep close and not let Thomas Neubauer and the other front runners get away.
And contact could be the operative word there, because as you speed up to try and get behind us, we can see the safety car now going to pick the cars up, I think.
Yeah. Obviously, on a long track like Le Mans, you have multiple safety cars available, and
absolutely.
I think the one safety car, whatever, got tired. No, allowed all the other cars to be released and reshape and reform behind the next safety car, because even at the best safety cars don't have quite the same speed as a Ferrari Challenge 488
Not
Evo
far
car.
behind, in fairness.
No, but allowing the cars to make up some ground and therefore shorten the time behind the safety car. So that's definitely a good strategy there.
And Thomas Neubauer virtually burying the front of his 488 Challenge Evo into the back end of the 296, which of course is our Richard Mille safety car now, which of course for some of our regions, led to believe, will become the Ferrari Challenge car next season.
Absolutely, and obviously he's already taking part in the Le Mans 24-hour race in the GT categories, and took a very famous win in another 24-hour race but a few weeks ago.
In Germany?
Absolutely.
Thought you might bring that up.
Yeah.
Thomas Neubauer, Ben Valent, and Alessio Dono, as I very rudely completely distract our train of thought. They are the train of Trofeo Pirelli cars. There is Manuel Agostner heading Axel Sartigan, P1 and P2, of course, in our Copa Shell drivers. There indeed is Manu. And Axel Sartigan, I was talking about Axel earlier on, Nico. He had a stellar year last year. I have to say, playing second fiddle to Franz Engstler in terms of the championship, but very much Axel has got his target sights on the championship for this year in Copa Shell. It would be an absolute thrill for him to take, he's one of the big entertainers and a real character. It would be a thrill for him to take a win here at Le Mans. What's preventing that? Well, it is this pink, blue and white car of Manu Agostner that we could see on screen. And she is P1 at the moment. Axel Sartigan is P2. But, of course, there's going to be traffic now, Nico, isn't there? And all of a sudden it comes about traffic management as much as anything else. As Daniel Schwerfeld there, who is on the pit perch, who is probably advising Axel Sartigan how to cope with this restart, I would suggest.
Yeah, definitely. And we have, like on the initial start, we have basically two groups of cars. The first one led by Thomas Neubauer, and then the second one is 3.5 minutes behind. And this is this group that we're talking about.
Yeah.
And there are some Pirelli M drivers, and then there is the bulk of the Shell drivers led by Manuel Agostner. There is our group number one, and they're already approaching Indianapolis and Arnage, or just going through Arnage. And therefore they are heading towards the north, and therefore heading towards the timing line in but a few moments, well, more like a minute maybe. They will be resuming the race, we assume.
I think it was off the back of Arnage going down here where we saw that incident, was it, Nico? Or have I called that incorrectly?
I believe it was based on the Marshall post. I believe it was near the first two chicanes on the main straight on the Mulsanne.
Apologies.
But they've definitely cleared that, and the safety car is keeping everybody close and true behind it.
Benz Valent in the all-black car, weaving vigorously behind Thomas Neubauer, made up 2 places right at the start of the race and finds himself in P2. What has he got to do now as Thomas Neubauer narrowly avoids stuff in the Richard Mille safety car? He was very close then, Nico. Thomas Neubauer, hugely experienced driver, of course. Very competent driver. Benz Valent has been something of a star, making his debut in the Ferrari Challenge this year. You've got 6, 7 very quick drivers there, haven't you? In Neubauer, Valent, Dono, top 3 in the Shell drive and the Pirelli drivers. Then Matt Kajewski, Tom Fleming, David Gosner, Simon Ladniak, and also Lucky Kira, who's in for a podium place at the moment for the Pirelli AM drivers, because he's running in P3, which is P8 overall. All very quick for Ferrari Challenge drivers there, Nico.
Yeah, absolutely. And 9 minutes and counting, and the lights on the safety car are still on.
Yes,
which
they
is
are.
a little bit concerning. After all, we have no yellow flags on the track anymore, so we do hope that we will be resuming our race, but we have no official indication of that as of yet, with but a few turns remaining.
I was going to say, we're getting towards the end of the lap, aren't we, Nico?
Absolutely, and there is anticipation in the pit lane, but I think there are also some nerves, and the later this is going to be announced, the more difficult it might be for the drivers, as we see top speed standings.
Henrik Kamstrup, 310 kilometers per hour, Nico.
That's quite some speed. That's quite some speed, and quite some speed is what Thomas Neubauer would like to put on. And right now he's still being held up and hindered, so to speak, in his perception by the Richard Mille safety car, which hasn't released the cars as of yet, and still makes no indication that it will.
And what concerns me, and it concerns you as well, is the fact that the lights are still on, Nico.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll see what will happen, and we're, you know, if the safety car is to peel off, it should have done now, and actually I think we're going to have another lap behind the safety car.
Do you know what? I hate admitting this, but I think you're right. And I've got, quite clearly, you know, we've got a wonderful TV production crew. We've got cameras everywhere. For the life of me, I cannot see the reason for that.
No, it's difficult to understand, because we got the last indication that we got was that the yellow flags had been removed, and therefore now we're down to 7 minutes. The last lap took 8 minutes.
So
I mean, obviously they can do a quicker lap behind the safety car, but this is really now putting into question how much racing we're going to get. I mean, maximum is going to be 1 lap anyway, but yeah. Really, really difficult to understand, and obviously we're being anxious to get the cars back to race speed, and very little happening right now.
Yeah, so looking at all the messages that we get on our timing screen here, and I'm just beginning to question, Nico, whether the safety car could peel off at a different part of the circuit.
I think that is something that the FIA rules don't have any loophole for, or any protocol for.
Okay.
So I rather think not, and it's really very, very curious, I have to say.
Because I think the safety car has sped up again.
Yeah, what has happened is we have now one grid again, so that gap between the Pirelli and the Shell drivers is no longer, so it's everybody now in one crocodile, and maybe they felt like that happened too late. But if we're being honest, if that's the case, then we should have sorted that a little bit earlier. But things are as they are, 6 minutes exactly remaining on the clock, and the safety car has sped up again, but that means, lo and behold, hopefully by the end of this lap it will come in and there will be one lap of racing. And I mean, especially for those who are out of position, who feel they are out of position, this must be particularly frustrating.
Yeah, I would agree with you. And one of those drivers you can see there is P5, and it's the very car that we looked at then. It's the Franz Engstler car, because Matt Kojewski is leading the Pirelli AM drivers ahead of David Gosner and Lucky Kira. Nobuhiro Imada, then Franz Engstler ahead of Yuda Uchida, Andrew Morrow, Mohammed Hamdi, Faisal Al-Faisal and Hans Sickens. They are the top 10 in the Pirelli AM class. Here's the Shell class then with Manuel Gosner, Axel Sardigan and Christian Herdvipper. They are the top 3 there. They are ahead of Peter Christensen, Corinna Gosner, Fons Skeldermar, Joachim Olander, Thomas Gosner, Alexander Nussbaumer. Then it's Ray Acosta, Brett Favre, Cyril Choksi, Eric Chung, Eric Marston, Christian Kinch, Jan Bernier, Ingvar Madsen, Roy Carroll and John Dillon. They are the 19 drivers in the Shell class and their positions at the moment, as we get the Shell AM drivers now, which includes Martinus Richter and Henrik Kamstrup and Roland Hurtner, who are the 1, 2, 3, with Paul Hogarth, who's been very, very good in the UK series this year, running in P4, ahead of Marazzi, Scudieri, Kirk Pervold, Stuart Marston, Lance Corley, Udlu Tazlev, then it's Tommy Linderoth, Josef Schumacher, Dan Cornish, Lisa Clark, Motohiko Isazaki, Bruce Cleveland, Jonathan Satchel, Julian Dye, Louis Perescoia, Pino Frascaro and Paul Simerson, who, of course, Nico, we saw come into the pit lane and have a replacement wheel put on. So there's the overall order on the left-hand side of your screen, where we have 4 minutes remaining.
Yeah, 4 minutes remaining, and the safety car has really put up and picked up speed as we're going through the Indianapolis turn, going towards Arnage. And I mean, yes, certainly we're going to get one more lap of racing, we would think, that the safety car will come back in. As of now, still no indication of that, as we've been waiting for that for the last 15 minutes.
Yeah, that's conjecture on our part. There's Tom Fleming going through that Arnage turn. And there you can see the anxiety. Safety car coming in this lap, we do get confirmation of right now. So you're seeing it as quickly as we are seeing it. So we are going to get what we consider and think will be one lap of racing before the checkered flag. So this is an opportunity for the likes of Bens Valent, although slow zone 6 will be deployed after the end of the safety car.
But that is a slow zone just for a certain part of the track,
period.
so that does not mean that it's the entire track is neutralized. So that means there will be one lap minus one zone where the cars will be able to race. Now, if there ever was a sense of urgency, this is probably it, especially if you're running P2 or P3 and a win at Le Mans is right in your grasp or just outside of it, and you really want to make something happen, you still have to be prudent about it. Don't overdo it. Even on a one lap dash for cash, the race isn't won or lost in one turn.
But it is well known and well recorded that safety cars do have a habit of becoming other safety cars. Let's hope not, because it is going to be a huge pack of cars all together now with Thomas Neubauer, who has the responsibility of controlling the pace of the restart, Nico. There is the Makoyevsky car. Currently running P4 in the race overall, but leading in Pirelli Am as we get the green flag and we go back to racing again. It is Ferrari Challenge live from Le Mans then, as Thomas Neubauer controls the restart really well and heads off any potential from Bens Valent to try and wrestle that lead away from Thomas Neubauer, and then Eliseo Dono in that P3 place. So Dunlop curves we are right now, and here you can see the power of the 488 Challenge Evo unleashed then as the cars make their way down the right, then left. You really run downhill here. It's one of the undulating parts, if you like, of the Le Mans circuit before being able to really stretch their legs and really make use of the awesome power that is available in these cars. And Thomas Neubauer, who had built a very nice gap before the safety car, is doing his level best to make sure that he builds once again, and has already built some 6/10, Nico, as for the final time of asking, they're on that long straight at the back.
Yeah, absolutely. We can see some slipstreaming going on. Nothing has happened to the best of our knowledge, but there is our first attempt. And as you can see from the track map, there are yellow zones and quite significant ones. So especially that turn at Mulsanne is not available for overtaking because it's yellow. Oh, and cars are going left and right through the chicane, around the chicane, inside the chicane, through Paris. Anywhere you can find some piece of tarmac, the cars are trying to avoid other cars and making a move if somehow possible. Manuel Agostner, we pick up our leader in the copper shell, followed by Axel Sartingen, and then it's Christian Rödviker, our top three here in copper shell.
And as you can see, every driver desperate to try and make the moves, because this is the last chance to be able to do that. Manuel Agostner had done a very good job at the restart there and held off, as David Gostner is coming under some pressure, and now Eliseo Dono is really putting the pressure onto P2 for this race overall. It's P2 is being held by Bens Valent at the moment in the all-black car. Eliseo Dono really closing up behind Bens Valent as we move into the wave double yellow section, which means cars have to slow, and of course we get big bunches of cars all coming around that turn, Nico. And I knew that was going to happen. I could just foresee it, that some cars were not slowing sufficiently, Nico.
Yeah, and that is unfortunate. And I mean, in fairness, our Trofeo Pirelli copper shell drivers, they're not used to the slow zone rules the same way that the WEC drivers are, maybe. Because it's not part of the general state of things in the Ferrari Challenge. And It's always tricky under these conditions, and unfortunately it went awry there. And
not sure who that was. It might have been Mohammed Hamdi, I think. Not sure, but we will see.
Yeah, we will see. Anyway, and by virtue of the slow zone, whoever it was is still almost keeping pace with with everybody else. And there is the Eliseo Dono car that we focused on, but a very long slow zone. And while that is something in a 24-hour race where you can kind of deal with it, here if you've got a 35-minute race of which 25 minutes are behind the safety car, that must be agonizingly slow. Indeed, we're looking at the Ferrari 488 Challenge Evos as they are going through the Indianapolis turn at not quite the speed that they would like to do. And once they make it through Arnage, then they will be released again for the final stretch of this lap and the very, 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 very last chance to make a move and potentially improve their positions. As Thomas Neubauer is approaching that green flag that you could see on the right-hand side being waved, and that means being released.
The one under pressure here, forgive me interrupting you, Nico, is going to be Benz Verlin, because Eliseo Dono, I think, anticipated that perhaps a little bit better. Thomas Neubauer goes up the road, and I think I was right. Mohammed Hamdi now is dropping down the order on the left-hand side of your screen, so I think perhaps it was him.
So is Franz Engstler, actually.
Yeah, fair point. So is Franz Engstler, you're quite right. Now, here comes Eliseo Dono, then taking a look at the inside. This is for P2 in the race overall, and it's P2 in Trofeo Pirelli. Benz Verlin under enormous pressure from Eliseo Dono, who goes off the track. Tries to get something of a slingshot, but he is not able to do so. And Thomas Neubauer, of course, whilst all this is going on, it matters naught, because he has done what he needs to do and has broken away from the likes of Benz Verlin and Eliseo Dono. So Thomas Neubauer then, appreciating that much of the race was behind the safety car, rounds the final sequence of turns and will head for home, and he'll put this one down in the book as Thomas Neubauer wins in Trofeo Pirelli ahead of Benz Verlin, who holds off Eliseo Dono. Matt Kurjewski, our North American racer, seals Pirelli AM, and that will be ahead of David Gosner and Nobuhiro Imada. So those drivers go through then and pick up their silverware almost. And of course, all the AM drivers, whether they be Pirelli and Shell, and our Shell and Pirelli drivers now, as the Shell drivers are about to head towards the final. As Manuel Gosner takes the win from Axel Sardigan and Christian Herd-Wieper. Now, for the AM drivers, it's going to be Martinus Richter. He'll be thrilled with that, Nico, who win ahead of Henrik Kamstrup. And then Paul Hogarth takes a podium at Le Mans. Well done, Paul.
Absolutely. Momentarily nurses his car across the line in a respectable P28 overall, P16 in class. Yeah, what can you say? I mean, there are our drivers finishing their race, and they have finished the race here at Le Mans. And I mean, for the likes of Thomas Neubauer, it kind of doesn't matter how he achieved the win. It's going to feel very, very good about it.
Yep.
Le Mans race winner. I mean, it's not the 24 hours, but it is a Le Mans race win for Thomas Neubauer. Waving the French flag, will be greeted by the French national anthem. Unfortunately, we won't be able to bring you the podium after this race, because the podium takes place quite a few hours later.
Yes.
It's not on the official podium in the pit lane, so don't unfortunately wait for that. We will bring all of those in the highlights later on. Watch at Ferrari Races on social media for that. And
well done to Manuel Gosner. Copa Shell winner. The Gosner family absolutely love their Ferrari Challenge racing, and that will be really, really good for Manuela. Absolutely be thrilled with that. So Pirelli drivers, Thomas Neubauer, Benz Verlin, Eliseo Dono. Pirelli AM drivers, Matt Kurjewski ahead of David Gosner and Nobuhiro Imada. For the Shell drivers, Manuel Gosner ahead of Axel Sardigan and Christian Herd-Wieper. And then for the Shell AM drivers, the top three are Martinus Richter, Henrik Kamstrup, and Paul Hogarth. So a race then that was punctuated by an elongated safety car period, and that was to be expected following the unfortunate incident where we saw tyre let go, and unfortunately Carl Cavers collected in that melee. So as we look at the cars then slowing down, and they'll be heading back to the pit lane. Many, many dreams have been realised this weekend, Nico, in that Ferrari Challenge race. I would suggest to you, as drivers have taken part in what is something very, very special indeed. Matt Kwiatkowski then, the winner for Ferrari Beverly Hills, Trofeo Pirelli Am. Beverly Hills, I'll be there a little bit later on in the year, if I may mention that. Very much looking forward to that. You can see the David Gosner car, and David Gosner then taking P2 in Pirelli Am. So well done to Matt Kwiatkowski. Had good fun with him yesterday in the Drivers' Parade, where legions of motor racing fans were welcoming all of our Ferrari Challenge drivers. And Matt, I have to say, really relishing the opportunity, and as athletic as he is, he didn't take to the train. He chose to jog alongside the train that was transporting the drivers around the parade. So well done. He's certainly jogged his way into the record books here in Le Mans by taking the win in Pirelli Am. So well done, Matt. Be seeing you in but a while. So Neubauer, Valent, and Dono then, the Pirelli Am. It's Matt Kwiatkowski, David Gosner, Nobuhiro Imada. All our regions, actually, Nico, I've just done the calculation in my head, which is always a slightly dangerous thing to do. But we have representatives from all of our Ferrari Challenge regions on the various podiums. So whether it's Japan, whether it's Europe, whether it's the UK, or whether it is North America, every region will be represented on at least one podium. How about that? Couldn't have asked for much better, really. So cars all heading back. And there we can see von Skeltmar in the 177 car, the car made famous and driver made famous by the shark's teeth that adorns not only the 488 Challenge Evo car, but also almost every piece of apparel that von Skeltmar owns has shark's teeth painted or embroidered on. So the Henrik Kamstrup car, the Martinus Richter car there that you can see, the all-yellow 111 car of Martinus Richter. There's Stuart Marston. Looks like there's a little bit of damage to the front of the Stuart Marston car, but he finishing the race in a very, very creditable position of P5 in class. Well done, Stuart Marston. Another one of the UK drivers, and they're all making their way at much slower speed back to the assembly area. And Martinus Richter, perhaps the fastest foot and ankle surgeon known, hails from Nuremberg in Germany, and Martinus Richter, then he'll be thrilled to have taken the win here.
Yeah, absolutely. Kept out of all the skirmishes and held it together, mixed it up with the Pirelli Am and Shell drivers in fairness, so really, really competitive, and got a well-deserved victory, and that trophy, I'm sure, will get a very special place on the Nuremberg mantelpiece.
It's a big one, the mantelpiece. It needs to be. It's got a few trophies on there, as Martinus met all his family this weekend as well, and I have to say, Martinus, a truly lovely man to spend time with and talk to, and maybe when I'm in Nuremberg in a few weeks' time, we'll catch up and have a cup of coffee. Who knows? So well done to Martinus Richter then, taking the Shell Am trophy, P1 trophy for Mertel Motorsport. Here right now are the highlights of Ferrari Challenge. So as the cars then were champing at the bit, ready to get going, it was going to be something of a memorable occasion for each and every one of the drivers, as some of the cars going almost 5 abreast at the start. Of course, you have Pirelli drivers, Pirelli Am drivers, Shell drivers, and Shell Am drivers as well, meaning a 70-strong grid of car. As near as makes no difference, some having to take to the runoff area. Track limits were not going to be penalised in the opening lap, that's for sure, as Arnsicken was one of those, and the Radici Automobili team were a little bit disappointed that perhaps Alessio Dono did not get a better start than he would have liked. And then the Shell drivers, the mix of Shell and Shell Am drivers, were released as well. And all the drivers through the Dunlop curves, and I have to say credit to all of our Ferrari Challenge drivers who coped not only with the volume of cars but the speed as well, and this Le Mans track really, really well. So all jostling for positions at various parts around the circuit, and you can see that many attempts were going to be made on that very, very fast straight to make an overtake stick. Some did, some didn't. And Matt Kwiatkowski was having an utterly brilliant race as he made his way past Thomas Fleming, and Pino Frascaro found the back end of the car overtaking the front end of the car on relatively cold tyres. Safety car was brought out. Paul Simerson took the opportunity to come in and have a slowly deflating tyre reinflated or even replaced, and once the green flag went again, it would be just a one-lap dash for cash for all of these cars to head towards the checkered flag, and each and every one of the drivers will relish and have relished the experience. None more so, though, than Thomas Neubauer, who crossed the timing line and took the win in the race overall. So a brilliant job done by Thomas Neubauer, but I have to say credit to all of our Ferrari Challenge drivers, whether they be Trofeo Pirelli, whether they be Shell, and whether they be Am drivers or not. They did a brilliant job out there on this extraordinary Le Mans circuits. So here come the results then. Thomas Neubauer, Benz Valent and Alessio Dono taking the win for Trofeo Pirelli, or the 1-2-3 in Trofeo Pirelli. For the Am drivers in Trofeo Pirelli, it was Matt Kwiatkowski ahead of David Gosner and Nobuhiro Imada. We have lots of pages of the results, as you can imagine, and therefore we're just picking out one or two drivers at random. But when we get to the Shell drivers, it was Manuela Gosner that led. Axel Sardigan and Christian Herdwipper, they were the top three in Shell. And for the Shell Am drivers, it was Martinus Richter, Henrik Kamstrup and Paul Hogarth with a podium. The UK driver getting a podium here at Le Mans. Of course, all the regions represented, from Japan, from North America, from the UK, and also from Europe as well. We only lost, to my knowledge, two drivers, Custodio Toledo and Carl Cavers, and they're the prancing horse. Well, from a European's perspective, we continue next at Estoril. North American drivers, they'll be in Montreal next. In fact, next weekend. So the Ferrari Challenge then here at Le Mans in support of the 24-hour race. And not only the 24-hour race, the 100th anniversary 24-hour race as well. The mix of emotions, the challenges, the anticipation, the excitement, and of course the emotions as the Ferrari Challenge drivers took to this tarmac, and it was a dream for many of them. From our point of view, a privilege to be here, and as always, Ferrari Challenge never failing to deliver a brilliant race punctuated by a long safety car. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.